I'm going to call a meeting to order, would be California Commissioners. Public input or comments, the board values the public's input and ideas and sets aside a time on the agenda to hear from the public on subjects of concern or support. We will make every attempt for each person wishing to speak to give them an opportunity. All information will be taken under advisement. Generally, no action on your input will be taken during the board meeting, but to ensure proper response at a later date should be noted. Please notify the moderator via the raised hand or chat function of your wish to speak and limit your comments to 3 minutes. The board appreciates your input. First item on the agenda is a consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion approved and seconded. Is there any discussion? During no discussion without objection, we will approve the motion. Next item is a call to order. And we are going to have Chris Tomberlin. Would you like to get up and introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners. My name is Chris Tumblin. I am the EMS director here at Ruby Health. And what I'm asking for today is to adopt a resolution that will allow EMS to go back out on the ballot in August for the EMS levy. The rate that we are receiving right now is 50 cents per thousand, and we are asking for a continuation of that 50 cents per thousand. When it comes to that amount, there is going to be an increase this year because of the assessed values back from 2018. And one of the statistics they brought was a home value at $500,000 right now pays about $165 a year, which is about $14 a month. With the new assessed value, that number would go up to $250 a year or $21 a month, which is an increase of $7 a month. So yeah, my request is respectfully request the approval of the resolution so we can put that back on the ballot for the board of trustees. And I'm happy to answer or attempt to answer any questions you might have.
First, you got 2 resolutions.
We do have 2 resolutions. So thank you for that. The first resolution is so we can go out in August. The second resolution is a contingency resolution, which is actually due on the day of the primaries, August 6th, I believe. And that resolution will allow us to, if it's not passed in August, that gives us the opportunity to go back out to the public, do more education so that we can inform them of the need for this levy. And what happens if this levy doesn't pass is a majority of our budget is funded by the levy. And without that, they would see a drastic decrease in the amount of ambulances that are out there supplying care to our community.
Chris, is that typically something that would be introduced early on? Because what you just said, at least from my listening, made a big impact as opposed to the request for approval. Is that something that you can bring out early in the discussion so that people's frame of reference is very positive? You know, without this request, and we're requesting. So it's kind of a flip of the emphasis, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it certainly does, and that is definitely one of the things that we're doing. We're starting so we're not really, how do I say this? We're out in the community on a regular basis. So we try to help educate the community as to what that levy money represents to us and what it is that we can give back with that. We do have a lot of speaking engagements right now, and this isn't like a fire levy. When the fire levy goes out for, say, a lid lift, if they don't get that lid lift, they just resort back to that money that they were currently getting for fire suppression. But for us, it's different. If we don't pass that levy, then that money stops coming in. You know, we've been going out every 6 years for a lot of years now, and one of the reasons we continue to go out every 6 years is because we kind of look at that as that's kind of our report card. So if we're doing good by the community, it usually shows up in the numbers, the guest votes, and we've had a lot of success in the past, which we're hoping to continue to have a lot of success in the future.
So I'll just add one more point as a professional speaker. The first thing that I think that you want to hit them with is the why and let versus the amount that you want. And so if you just start with, I'm here because da da da, and before I get to the actual request and some of the numerics, I'd like to explain to you what the purpose is and why we do this. I think you'll get them. Anybody who's listening to you will be thinking very, very proactively and positively early on, rather than thinking about the number that's about to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that we're trying to do is just try to get our story out there. Like we have, some of you were here for the presentation that we gave a while ago about EMS and the history of it. And one of the things in the feedback that we got is, wow, we didn't really know that this was the evolution of EMS, and kudos that we got in the past from the World Health Organization. So I completely agree with you. Yeah, we need to tell our story, talk about why it's important, and we'll go from there.
I think the board needs to know that, like for Chris and the rest of them, they can go out and present all the information. They cannot go out really promoting the
That's correct.
levy. So we as board members can. And, we need to get out in the community and really push this to try to get the approval. They can go out just to give all the information out.
Right.
So like I said, their hands are kind of tied. And so, that's one of the things that I've kind of preached as a board. We need to support the EMS, and we can go out and, kind of campaign, for the levy lift. But, like I said, they can only go out and basically, if they go to a meeting, you're there, you'll hear them give all the information, but they're not going to come down to the end and say, please vote for the
Right.
for it.
Exactly. We do a lot of that education on a monthly basis. We're out in the public. Quite a bit.
So they're getting all the different organizations and
To that point, Chris, could you please get us the, talking points? So that when we go out, we can have talking points on, this is what we would lose if we don't.
Yeah.
This isn't passed, and, this is what we do every day, so like just a one pager, so we can have that. That would be
Absolutely.
really helpful.
Robert Scott. So Robert has the gift of speaking. I take him with me because I don't always have that gift. But he is really good with talking about the statistics of things like Cedar Falls preventions, having a heart safe community when AEDs are involved, about the statistic for cardiac arrests. So I would be happy to forward that information to the board, and I can also forward the information that I have that we're using as talking points when we go out to the community. A lot of it is PowerPoint, some of it needs a little more information to go with each slide, but yeah, we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Can you provide just a little bit of historical information about the last time that this went up for a vote and what the community response was like? And was it close? Was it, highly favorable? What happened then, and how do you think that might?
It was back in 2018. So to be honest with you, I can't remember how much of that information came out of the office versus how much of that information came out of us going out to the community and just giving them that information. So we have always enjoyed substantial support from the community. I'm not sure if it was, I'm going to get my years wrong, but we're usually in the upper 60s to low 70% for the guest vote.
Okay.
Yeah, so and it's part of that is because we are the only advanced electric which is going on that. But we want to make sure that we earn the community's trust, make sure we provide excellent customer service. So,
Thank you.
Is there any more questions?
well, real quick though, Kate, it's kind of a little bit up to you and I too, because they've always fallen a little bit short on the north end because it's very transient. And, so the rest of the islands really picked it up. But kind of asking you to, help that, back that.
No pressure.
So it's all on you whether it passes or not.
I got it, I got you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 467. Second both together or just do separate?
Why don't you just separate?
Okay. We got a motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah, there is a second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 468.
Possible I have them wrong on the agenda.
Pardon me?
It's possible I have them wrong.
Okay.
So,
Say the resolution paper here should be right, here at
Yeah.
467 and 468.
all right, everybody changed their agenda. It should read 468 on the agenda, so your motion is to approve, resolution number 468. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr.
Opposed?
Chairman, I need you to apologize for making a point that I was wrong.
Keep that on.
Yeah, I got your problem. Okay, next, thank you very much. We appreciate your input.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Next, Meditech. Patrick?
No, that'd be
Or Dominic?
should be me.
Oh, you want to get involved in that, okay?
I want to, but I think I'm the only one that knows about it. So as we've been going through implementing our Meditech expense upgrade, it came to our attention that the family birthplace was not included in the original contract for an upgrade, which is, I don't know if it was intentional or not at the time, but it's not a good thing. We need to include them so that we're all on the same system and eliminate the other systems that we're using. We talked to Meditech, they were able to give us the same pricing we had originally if we could approve it at this meeting. Total extra cost would be about $240,000. And that will take place after we finish the current upgrade for the rest of the hospital. And then we'll start implementing this system. So it will put everybody on the same system. Right now, the family birthplaces having to input the same information into 3 different systems. Which is not acceptable, quite honestly, and this would put everybody on the same system and eliminate the. So just asking for approval to add that as a future project.
Would there be a substantial cost if we delayed?
I think it was another $150,000 just for software, somewhere in that neighborhood.
35%, so that's substantial.
Is there a motion?
Oh, can I just ask one?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Because I wasn't here, obviously, when the others, other pieces came up. Can you just clarify for me what is recurring and what would be, one-time cost on the?
So I don't believe any of it is recurring.
Okay.
On this, we have a recurring fee that we pay for the whole system. And this would be rolled into that, but of these expenses, nothing should be recurring.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, this decision was made when?
So I can't be specific because
What year?
2020 or 2021,
Okay, so,
when the original decision was made, and then at some point, this piece was taken out,
right, so this is all before your time.
all before my time.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
So,
Don't blame.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Aye.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes. Did you want to take the next one?
so our current telemetry system is at end of life. We can no longer repair or replace any of the parts. So we're basically living on borrowed time. So we need to replace our telemetry system so we can continue to monitor all of our patients. We have received 3 quotes, and The executive team has chosen the lesser of the three, which is just over $1 million. We'll be able to lease that on a 3, 4, 5, or 6 year lease that would payments would start in September. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes.
And we could get the implementation started now, and it would take about a month and a half. And with that way, we would get it implemented sooner and start making payments in September. If we do not replace it, we're just waiting until it crashes and then we're going to be able to take care of our patients.
So which company and how many, this is throughout the whole hospital?
Yes,
right?
this is for everybody in the hospital. We currently have Philips and we will be going with Nihon Kohden. It's a better system. Our only other option instead of replacement would be to upgrade the current system, which would cost us between $400,000 and $500,000 a year on a basis to try to stay upgraded.
Can you go back to you said the word million and then lease? Are we leasing this or are we buying?
So I have asked the foundation to make this their fundraiser for the upcoming gala.
Mhm.
And so depending on what they were able to raise, we could possibly pay for it. We asked for the lease options, which would be what we would sign initially. To keep our payments lower, and then we could pay that off.
And so if we lease it, what are the payments per month
Uh,
or year?
A 36-month lease payments would approximate $32,000. 6-year lease,
That's 32,000 a month?
A month.
Okay.
yeah, and
It's like 17.
yeah,
16 or 17.
17,000 a month with the longer lease.
Much.
And does this include repair, maintenance, contract?
And the estimated life of the new system is 10 years. So that's probably on the short side. That's the estimate.
And the system will interface with whatever we need to interface.
Yes.
with.
And we'll interface with our expanse system.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the lease of the telemetry system. Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passes.
thank you. One quick thing. Did you say motion to approve the lease? Or it's written out of purchase?
I did say the word lease.
Yep.
Based on the last comment. And so
Did it need to be?
It needs to be leased initially. Yep, and then we can pay that on the both or not.
Yeah.
Just like-
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, John, is there any public comments?
Right now, I have none.
Okay, moving on.
Commissioner Golden.
Yes.
You let Chris discuss one more thing as far as the EMS level.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I neglected to bring up is when we submit our mandatory coverage resolutions, we also have to attach a for and against and a for and against committee names so that they can write up a pro statement and a con statement that goes into the voters pamphlet.
Mhm.
And so we will be looking for input to see if anybody wants to head those committees up. The names of the committee have to be in by May 3rd, and the statements themselves for the voters pamphlet have to be completed by May 13th. Sorry, just one more thing for that.
Yeah, and just to go, the board has to assign that committee. For and against, if we, for some reason, can't find anybody against it, that's fine, but we need to appoint, the board needs to appoint this committee. Board members can be on it, but preferably as people from the community.
All right, very good. Mr. Wallen. I will request that you spearhead that group.
Okay. I'll work with Tim on that.
One last thing, if there is not a con committee, then that goes back to the assessor's office. Or the auditor's office, and they advertise it to the public to see if anybody wants to write a cons.
Thank you. Okay. What we've all been waiting for, Dr. Lemming. You're on.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm a little under the weather, so I'm calling in from home so I don't get any of you infected. I do not have COVID, but something hit me hard this week. We have 5 initial appointments to present. Michael Kelly, MD, Pathology, Provisional Active. Ashley Lee, MD, Teleradiology, Provisional Telemedicine. Courtney Lindgren, MD, OBGYN, Provisional Active. Samantha Steele, PAC, Walk-in Clinic, and Goldie, Provisional Active. Kathleen Handke, Nurse Practitioner, Telepsych, Provisional Telemedicine. Those are the initial appointments.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have-
Opposed? Motion passes.
One advancement, Omar Naji, MD, Hospitalist Courtesy. That's the only advancement for this month.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Quinn.
Yes.
We have 3 privilege request forms that are one is updated and 2 are new ones. The certified registered nurse anesthesiologist request form for initial appointment has been updated to make it more current with current practice guidelines, and to also add in the option for peripherally inserted catheters, PICC lines using ultrasound and EKG placement. The second one is for modified limited surgery clinical privileges, which is focused on for surgeons who may no longer want their pending retirement kind of area or becoming more administratively oriented, to allow them to continue to be clinically active to a more limited degree. The modified limited surgery clinical privileges request form allows for them to continue to be doing colonoscopies and doing some surgeries, but not being full practice. And the third one is the request form for a physician assistant hospitalist, which we did not have before, but we are now going to have some physician assistants doing inpatient care, and we needed to have that privilege delineated. And so that's why we came up with a new privilege request form for that as well. So we recommend these. The credentialing committee has reviewed them, and the MEC has approved them, and we seek your approval.
Any discussion on these privilege requests? Okay, first one is certified registered nurse anesthesiologist. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Second one is modified limited surgery clinical privileges.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Third one is hospitalist, physician assistant certified.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. Thank you, Dr. Lynn.
Thank you, and that's the end of my report today. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. All right. Sorry, I got you guys out of order there.
That's all good.
Okay, let's go. Which one of you wants to do it? I'll take it.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you. So just 2 quick updates today. The first one is with regards to our EDW Enterprise Data Warehouse, which I've been talking about for the last few months. It is coming along really, really well in development. And we are gonna have a demo to our CFOs on the 12th of April. So very excited about that. We think it's gonna be a big a game changer for us. So if there's anybody else who wants to join that demo, please just shoot me an email and I'll put you on the invite list. But at the moment, the demo is only for our CFOs. The second thing I wanted to talk about briefly, which I think is a word that, you know, we all hear and floats around everywhere in business. But I can't emphasize enough the importance of this, and this is cybersecurity. At the beginning of this week, we had our monthly CEO meeting where we have all of our CEOs from the different hospitals. We have a monthly CEO forum, and the topic for Monday's meeting was cybersecurity. And the reason why we had a cybersecurity session was because a few weeks ago, based on what happened with Change, you know, it really sort of rattled my brain, and I immediately thought, okay, do all of our hospitals have the required insurance for cybersecurity? Do they really have? Are they all familiar and have a plan or a blueprint for what to do when in an event? And Derek, our chairman, who ran the meeting on Monday, he was actually at McLaren about 6 months ago as the CIO, and obviously it's a system hospital, and they got hit, by the same people that hit Change, which is Black Cat. And so he's just recently been through this, and he literally was the throat to choke in the hospital in terms of running this and getting them out of it. So he was talking to the cyber attackers, he was talking to the FBI, he was, you know, he was in control and supervised the whole event. But, you know, one of the things that he took, so the session was about lessons learned and what we need to do in the future to protect ourselves. And the one thing that happened within their situation is that within about 48 hours or 2 to 3 days, McLaren was already $750,000 down the tube, just in terms of insurance carriers, et cetera. So we're going to be taking this to the next step. We're going to be doing a second session with CFOs, as well as other IT directors and IT or CIOs within the hospitals. One thing that we've seen over many years, and I'm not pointing fingers at Woodby, but for a lot of the smaller hospitals, in a lot of cases, the IT departments are actually very weak. It's just a known fact. And whether it's personnel, whether it's processes, whether it's just experience, or those departments are, you know, understaffed from a budget point of view or salaries point of view. But we just know that it's just a fact. So we've got to, you know, from Health Tech's point of view, we just want to make absolutely sure that all of our hospitals are fully equipped and well equipped in the situation should something like this arise, both from the point of view of the steps and what moves and chess moves you need to make, and everybody understanding that, and then the second part of it to making absolutely sure that you have the cash, because in most cases these days, straight out of the gate, you're in for a $500,000 hit. Go ahead.
And just to, you know, to make this sort of very real in this context, I haven't felt, you know, truly smart and prepared as many times as I would like in my life, but I have been through this once where I was the guy who called the FBI and said, you know, we need somebody assigned to this case, we need help. We got through it with a relatively slight disruption. Wasn't an actor that was as sophisticated as the one that attacked Change. But the reason was a year and a half prior, We really comprehensively reviewed our cybersecurity. Including, our insurance, but also our investment in IT. And a year earlier, I had gone to the mat fighting for non-clinical spending on backups and redundancy. And, by the grace of everything up above, that all lined up so that got implemented 6 months before, we got attacked. And so a hospital our size can be prepared. We're not saying that Whitby isn't prepared, but we are saying we're gonna make it a core focus to get with all of our people and make sure every hospital is as prepared as they can be.
Thank you, Patrick.
Also, your amazement is your weakest hospital worker who's out on public,
Yeah.
websites doing whatever at work or linking in. So I think an awareness too for all the staff is really important to be, cyber warriors against.
I'm so glad you brought up that point, and it's something that I said in the meeting, communicated to all the CEOs in terms of new employment onboarding and many other areas. It's got to be an area that gets covered really carefully, and it's very, very clear because the two most easiest ways for a cyber attack is password integrity and somebody clicking on a phishing email. Still the two highest, which is the easiest thing that can happen if people aren't trained or don't know how to identify a phishing email. And the other thing that's super, super interesting, which I didn't know, I'm sure you do, but with regards to change, and even with McLaren, in most cases, before the cyber attackers say, we've got you, they've already been in your system for 3 to 6 months. They've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
They've built houses in there.
If they're good.
Yeah, if they're good.
You hope that,
So-
you're not dealing with somebody who's smart, and not all criminals are. But you gotta prepare for the ones that are.
Thank you, that's our update.
I have a
And we will be having a full session on cybersecurity at our conference as well.
I have a question for Tim, in all likelihood, Tim. The Meditech Expanse system, is there a component for cybersecurity that's already incorporated into that process?
There is, and we've been very stringent on building redundancies in our systems. We're partnered with a company that helps monitor everything. We do a lot of phishing emails to train staff and prepare them. We've actually had a number of things that have come through that staff have actually brought to the IT smartly forwarded on, so it could be blocked and investigated and warnings given. So are we perfect? No. Do we have room to grow? Yes, but there's a lot of things in place that we looked at and put in place. Our password, we have strong passwords. We're going to be, get some change on a regular basis. There's a lot of things that are constantly being looked at and built on.
Thanks.
I can say from direct experience trying to trade spreadsheets with Paul, that your systems are on the more locked down side. I think that's a really good thing. And if we do nothing except raise awareness that in this day and age, it is far more responsible to err on the side of caution when you're dealing with stuff like this, even if it means taking an hour to figure out how to safely trade emails. That's a good thing.
Good. Any more discussions for questions for Naomi? Okay, let's move on to foundation report. I don't see Samar. Marion, would you like to give her report?
Yes, Samar had to be at a Chamber of Commerce meeting today, where they're also talking about the ambulance information. So I'm no longer president of the Whitby Health Foundation, although I am still assisting them a little bit, just because of institutional memory. The foundation has been in a rebuilding phase the last 3 months. They have some new staff, which is going to be very exciting. They're very young, very skilled, and they'll be taking the foundation to even larger heights, which is good because now we need $1 million for telemetry units. And we have the people who can go out and get grants and look out further than just the island to bring in some more funding, although our island people are always very, very generous and we appreciate them very much and hope to see them at all the foundation events. You know, there are some grant money and other things out there that we would like to obtain for our bigger needs. I'm done, thank you, yes.
Thank you, Mary. Accountable care, Dr. Miller.
Can you put on the slide, please, John? So yes, I understand we'd like a brief educational update on ACOs and what they are and our participation. So here is hopefully just a few minutes of the basics about ACO. ACO is an accountable care organization. So this all started about 12 years ago, and it's part of the Affordable Care Act that was passed under the Obama administration. Lists some of the things that the ACA did, but one of the things was it led to the development of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation. And that allowed the testing of different innovative care models, of which the ACO is one of them. And the Medicare Shared Savings Program, or MSSP, is the flavor of ACO that we are participating in, starting this year. Next slide. So this shows the Medicare Trust Fund balance over time. The horizontal line is 0, and when those lines cross 0, that's when the trust fund runs out of money. So that orange line was the 2021 projection. And the blue line and the green line are different federal government organizations' projections of when the trust fund is going to run out of money. There's actually some updated information, which is not on the slide, which shows that we're not going to run out of money even then. It's been pushed out a little bit as a result of the pandemic. And possibly the effect of some of these programs and managed Medicare. So it's not quite as dire as running out of money in 2031, but it's still, the fund's still planning to run out of money unless we do something to make our care more affordable. Okay, next slide. So ACOs are all over the country, and they're currently voluntary. And by 2030, they will be mandatory. And they're all a little bit different, but the goal is still the same, to trying to find a new way to provide care at a lower cost and maintain or improve quality of care. So you're seeing the different ACOs in Washington State, and there are many of them. And the two different flavors, the MSSP and the REACH. We don't have to go into the details and the differences, but I want to call your attention to on the left, the very bottom of the top portion. It has Jefferson Healthcare. They have their own ACO that they're starting this year. That I think is really awesome, that they feel like they can do this basically all by themselves. We are partnered with an organization called PSW to help us with this. But it shows you how far advanced some of the other organizations in our state are in this arena. And we need to do a little bit of catch up, because as I said, by 2030, in 6 years, Medicare is going to require every healthcare organization to be participating in one type of ACO or another. That's their goal. Yes.
Dr. Muller, perhaps you could just spend a minute and say, what is it that's being done? In other words, what are these organizations doing?
Next slide.
Well,
Glad you asked. What is an ACO? Okay, let's start with on the right. An ACO is not an insurance company or plan. It is not a narrow network, and it's not a Medicare Advantage plan. What it is a group of providers, doctors, nurses, APPs, hospitals, all the different things that are part of our organization, who agree to work together to provide their patients with better care at a lower cost. And another way of saying it is, it's an organization that works in between a health insurance plan and the providers who see the patients to help with those two goals in mind: reduce cost and improve quality of care. Does that help? Okay, next
What does
one.
that look like for the patient? Is it transparent? I mean, so,
No. And it doesn't need to be. A beneficiary can be enrolled in an ACO without knowing about it. It shouldn't happen, but it can, in reality, it can happen. It does not affect their benefits or their right to receive services or Medicare's obligation. It shifts the financial risk significantly so that Medicare.
I'm not gonna steal your presentation, it's a nice presentation.
You're stealing it.
It shifts the financial risk without changing the patient's rights.
While improving quality of care.
That's the goal. There's no guarantee of that.
Well, there's incentives, to
There's
that.
others-
There are incentives to hopefully.
There's a lot of incentive to reduce costs.
but not
Yes.
necessarily.
Great questions, and if you let me finish the presentation, I think I'll cover most of it. You guys are, I know you're really eager to learn. It's great that you really want to learn, so, okay, goals of an ACO. Lower the total cost of care and improve quality. Okay, those are the two main goals. And when we are able to do both of those things, not just one, we can do both, we can share a portion of the savings that we have generated for CMS. Okay, but if we don't improve quality and we don't reduce costs, we don't get anything. And in fact, in some models, we are at financial risk to actually lose money. In the model we're participating in, we're just dipping our toe in the water. There's no risk to us. We have an upside potential that is not as great as other participants, but we have zero risk for this first 3 years. So that's what we thought would be best for us, since we've never done this. Okay, so there's the quadruple aim that everyone is always aiming for in healthcare: improve the health of the population, reduce the cost of care, enhance the patient experience, and improve provider satisfaction. We believe that being part of an ACO will help us in achieving all of those. Next slide. So who is in the ACO? Traditional Medicare beneficiaries only. Okay, this is not Medicare Advantage patients. This is not commercial patients, just traditional Medicare patients, of which we have, I believe, around 3,000. It's a significant number. We're one of the larger members of the ACO. That we're participating in. There's 7 other hospitals that are in this ACO. They're part of our rural collaborative, and ours is one of the larger population. But it does include certain subtypes of Medicare enrollees, such as end-stage renal disease, disabled, aged, and dual eligible or Medicare and Medicaid. And as Patrick was saying, Medicare beneficiaries don't choose to be in this. They are assigned to us as their provider as part of the ACO. They can opt out if they want to. It's a cumbersome process, but they can opt out if they want to. But there's really no reason for them to opt out, because it, as Patrick said, it does not limit them in any way as far as their benefits, as far as what doctors they can see or what hospitals they can go to. And in fact, it provides additional benefits to them, such as care coordination and chronic disease management. So it's really no harm to the patient at all. It's only a benefit to the patient. to be part of an ACO, and they are all notified. By law, we have to notify them, and those letters, I believe, have already gone out to all of our patients that they are part of our ACO, and we have signs up in every one of our clinics and the hospitals saying we are part of an ACO. You, if you're traditional Medicare, you see one of our providers, you're in it. And there's contact information if they want more information. Okay, next slide. So this is basically a little bit about the future of Medicare's future plan for healthcare delivery. And these are the goals, you can read them: drive accountable care, advance health equity, support innovation, address affordability, and partner to achieve system transformation. So this is just one of the many models that CMS is working with to reach these goals. Next slide. So this shows you the number of people that are yet to participate in an ACO. We're in that green arrow area, but there are, by 2030, Medicare wants every traditional Medicare patient to be enrolled in an ACO.
And just the reason to believe in the 2030 goal is the first couple slides, whether it's 2030, 2040, 2050, there's an end date in sight for the Medicare Trust Fund without huge changes. Huge changes may occur, but when we think about the ACA as the most significant healthcare legislation in, I'll just say in my lifetime, I don't want to think about everybody's birthday. And we think about how long it's been since then, where a lot of the big add-on changes that were contemplated haven't really happened. This is a non-legislative required goal that translates Medicare beneficiaries to a capitated payment for Medicare, a plannable payment, as opposed to the federal government foot in the bill for healthcare inflation. So there's a heck of a lot of reason for Medicare to continue making it, you know, both in people's interests and a necessity for people to participate in these. We got to take them seriously.
If I ask some questions now, will it be premature because you still have more to say?
I have one or two more
Okay,
slides.
I'll wait. Just in case.
All right, next slide. All right, so those top little boxes are the quality metrics that we are going to be measured against for this year. And we are already tracking all of these already, so they're not dramatically new for us. So the first one is control of diabetes. The second one is screening for depression and acting on it if the screen is positive. The third one is controlling high blood pressure, hypertension. And the fourth one is patient experience CAHPS. And again, we're tracking that ourselves. And then the last two are hospital-based. So the fifth one is unplanned readmissions to the hospital. Again, we track that and we've actually been doing pretty well with that. And the last one is overall risk-adjusted admission rates for patients with complex medical conditions. So those are the quality measures that the CMS is going to be tracking on our patients. That bottom set of bars, it shows how the cost benchmark is determined. And basically they look at the prior 3 years of the cost of care for our patients, take into account inflation and other projections, and they come up with a new benchmark for us. And if we can spend less than that during the course of the year for taking care of these patients, we have the ability to share in that savings, assuming we met the quality targets. So that's kind of how it works. Next slide. I guess that's it. Okay.
Okay. So just a couple of things, and they both are related to choice. So with patients, when they get ready to select Medicare, either for the first time or in re-enrollment, they're choosing between Advantage or traditional Medicare, Medigap. If they're not selecting to be part of an ACO and they just because they're traditional Medicare, they go into it, but there's potential for them to have added benefit, then wouldn't it behoove whoever is speaking to that patient about which plan they want to enroll in? Shouldn't they be made aware of potential extra benefits so they can make a better informed choice about what plan to go into? And if so, is there a mechanism for providing that information or saying what that is or making them like, so there's exactly two parts. So let me say the second half of it, because the other half of it is the hospital then, it seems like the hospital, if we do a good job, is much better off having traditional Medicare patients. Does that mean that there will be a direction toward not taking Medicare Advantage anymore? And saying we're not gonna accept Medicare Advantage? I mean, it's kind of a,
So that's a lot of questions and a lot of loaded questions.
well, so I
Yeah,
felt.
so I,
So I
they're
work with
really
people that
complicated
do Medicare,
Good questions.
so I'm just
so the
thinking
first
about
question,
my
the answer to the first question is, I don't know. I don't know,
oh, I
sounds like-
forgot to allow to say, you can't say you don't know, I just didn't tell you that.
Patrick has it.
No, but
I know how things.
So, you know, Medicare Advantage plans are very popular. The government likes them because they believe they're saving money. Because those companies are managing the delivery of services. You can translate that into gatekeeping and restricting what they feel is unnecessary care. Obviously, that has led to huge controversy and pushback, similar to what happened with managed care when it first came out many years ago. We're seeing the same thing again. These companies are for-profit companies, and they plan to make money off of those Medicare patients, and they make it hard to get procedures and treatments pre-authorized. They may or may not cover certain medications. And they're all doing this in the guise of providing better care. And so they're popular with patients because they dangle various benefits in front of them.
Yeah.
Everything from, services that aren't covered by traditional Medicare, like say dental, vision, exercise classes, or even actually, debit cards with preloaded, all kinds of things that they're dangling in front of patients to make it sound like it's a good deal, but they usually couple them with a skinny network, which is a limited number of providers they can see without going through gigantic hoops. Limited hospitals they can participate in, limited medications they can order, limited treatments they can have. So that's how they control the cost and potentially make their profit.
They're pretty good at denying claims too.
Right,
Yeah.
this is, so. I agree with everything you just said. I think it's fact, I think you just, you're, absolutely on point, and that is fact. Yours, particularly the statement that the federal government believes MA are saving them money. I believe that's fact, and it's, but it kind of gets buried in the rest. It's not clear that MA are saving the system money yet. It's clear that they are paying less for healthcare, but there's a layer of corporate overheads and corporate profits that has to get added in for system savings, which is how you extend the intake of the Medicare Trust Fund. And so that challenge is the struggle Paul and I face of can the hospital continue to afford to accept MA? And I mean, the simple answer for a Kurt Access hospital is that if you can afford to accept a government payer, you're going to generally accept them. So it's crazy that we're having this conversation about a government payer. It's where MA has come to.
And actually, I wouldn't go so far as to call them a government payer.
Yeah, they've become not, it's not a pass through anymore, it's a corporate payer in another guise.
What's the
That's
ratio of patients that we have that are traditional versus MA?
What percentage?
Yeah, do we know?
I'm gonna take a stab at it, I'm in a little better position than you. And I would say maybe 60 traditional, 40 managed.
And that's probably 30-20 relative to the total patient.
Yeah,
population.
yeah, thank you.
Dr. Miller, would there, perhaps you've answered this. In what way would a patient know or recognize that they're associated with an organization that's part of an ACO and ACA? Does it matter to them? In other words,
They
or is
get a
it
letter.
transparent?
They get a letter.
A letter, okay.
They get a letter saying, you are a member of an ACO. And our patients are just, they just gone out. You know, you are now a member of Whitby Health and PSW, ASW, ACO.
So just put the other foot down. What does that mean, other than they got the letter? What does it mean to me as a patient? Should I be apprehensive? Should I be excited? Do I think it's gonna save me money? Is my care gonna, what does it mean to me now that I got that letter?
Right, it should be exciting, it should be good, it should. And the letter tries to explain that you have all the exact same benefits you have now, plus. You have an organization that's looking out for your best interest, trying to improve the quality of your care and trying to keep the costs down. Eliminate unnecessary treatments, expensive treatments, but focus on things that really will improve your health. And new services that they may not have had previously, such as chronic care management, care coordination services.
And
So they're getting some good information.
Yes,
a big part of it too is, Medicare feels like it will decrease medical errors and it will help, redundancy of care, right? So you have care coordination, so people aren't getting one medicine here and I go to this other doctor and they're gonna interact poorly and things like that, so that it's really concrete on how it can improve their care in that way. And so the implementation of this has been written up as sometimes being a problem in implementing it. Have we had any hiccups and are we doing better now? Are we doing okay now?
this is brand new. We just started in January and it's
Okay.
taken a slow start. And you're right. It has a big potential to help us by providing us with data we don't currently have. Right now, they are going to be providing us with claim data. So that's how they figure out the cost of care. They get the bills. CMS gets the bill for every time a Medicare patient has any service of any kind, wherever they have it, anywhere in the country, they get the bill. And they're going to feed that information back to our ACO. And the ACO is going to filter it and give it back to us. So we will know if, say, our patient left our system, maybe on vacation, got sick somewhere else, had a bunch of tests done, treatments, that would come back to us. We may have that information and potentially avoid duplicating services that we're providing elsewhere.
Not only would we have the information, but in the event that we were contributing to the cost savings and the improved quality, we would also see a check or checks at some.
So can we do some kind of marketing informational thing out to our populace that talks about that? All the benefits that this will bring you and Whidbey Island, here's what the advantages will be. Here's how the care coordination works. And then when I'm turning 65 in September, full disclosure. So, there's lots of people like me on the island. So when they're looking for plans, they can say way advantage against traditional Medicare, because I'll be in this ACO where they're really looking out for me, coordinating my care, and it will help our community hospitals save money and provide better care for everyone. So like a really informative campaign, where we could really get the information out, I think would be helpful.
That's a great idea.
I think we need to be careful with our advocacy.
Thank you.
This
is
is something we need to think about and talk about.
It's just something to be careful about. Of course, one of the advantages of partnering with an organization instead of trying to go it alone. And there's pros and cons to anything, but one of the advantages of going with an organization like PSW, and I don't know them, is that they already have the communications built and can or should be able to clearly communicate that, which saves you from the sort of fraught environment of recommending a health plan to somebody, which is, there's always a challenge as a hospital. It can be done. Education, towing the line between education and advocacy is difficult.
Yeah.
Can be difficult.
And you have to be really careful about the timing, because the people that have Medicare Advantage right now, if the information goes out that Whitby Health has, the other people that have traditional Medicare have this excellent, this new benefit, and I don't, I can't make that change. You can't put me in there. I'd have to wait for open enrollment to try to switch and go back to traditional Medicare. And so I'm gonna resent you with Whitby Health because you did it for them, but you didn't do it for me.
And usually what you see is that 99% of beneficiaries care about their benefits, not about whether they're assigned to an ACO. It truly has, you know, for the patient, there is only upside to being part of an ACO. And so all of the education they received when they were, whether they were talking to an advisor or researching it themselves, their Part A and Part B and any supplemental plan still applies. Even their co-insurance doesn't change. Now, if somehow you save them from hospital visits because their primary care doc realizes they have a chronic condition and manages it really well, that's great, and that does kind of save them money, but not as a result of being in an ACO, or just as a result of, we did a great job of taking care of someone, and so it shouldn't impact the patient's decision-making, which is what I usually wind up with on this is a financial decision for everyone involved. We have to include quality, and we have to have quality getting better, because we can't allow the health system to be only dollars and cents. Obviously, it's cheaper not to provide necessary care. But if you trust that, you know, your CEO, CFO, and leadership team are going to ensure that quality is a pillar of the organization, it's the quality goals are going to be the same whether you're in or out of an ACO. For the way that you think about ACOs as a hospital, I would keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, you did a good job of getting in with an upside only contract, so that you have the ability to do some learning before you commit to the future. It always terrifies me when a hospital or a physician group who's never been part of one of these dives into full risk, because boy, there's some real downside once you take on full risk. As it grows and as you are inevitably approached, think really hard before taking on downside risk, and think about how you're gonna, you know, manage that if you do. The hospital is not an insurance company, because that generally doesn't make sense.
Right.
But that's one route that this can go in the next 4 or 5 years. Number two is keep your relationship with PSW at front of mind. And because that company that relationship is critically important to make itself.
Okay, time being of the essence, Garth, would you like to wrap up?
So, yes, just to wrap things up. The government and all of us that have been thinking about this have been wanting us to move in the direction of some form of accountable care, rather than our current system, which is pay for every visit, pay for volume, pay for every procedure. That the entrepreneurial side of medicine and hospitals has led to overutilization and excessive costs, and we're the most expensive healthcare system in the world. And we can't say our quality is the best. So we've got to move in this direction to provide affordable care and high quality care. And the way we're going to do that is to incentivize everyone to do that. And this is one way to incentivize, to align the incentives to everybody involved. That the dollars are going to flow to the people that provide quality care, not quantity care. And so we have to go down this path. We've talked about it for decades, and now we're finally starting.
Someday the ball will back to the patient, or when they take responsibility and do the right things, they'll benefit, they'll get a piece of that back too.
Thank you, Garth. Let's move on to staff and status reports. Shauna.
Welcome, everyone. So for quality presentation today, John's getting the slides up, just a moment. And I think to add to that, while he's bringing that up, is education for staff and scripting for staff on the ACO. I think it's important so we can communicate that to the patient also. All right, so next slide. So some quick highlights for the organization, just wanted to share with the board and the community. Successful Department of Health recertification for the hospice survey has occurred and no findings for patient care components. The surveyor was very complimentary of the hospice team and the care provided to our patients. So kudos to the entire team of hospice. Also, Medicare has updated the care compare information online, and hospice had scored above average in every measure of family caregiver experience and quality of patient care. So again, they updated at random, so watching that always. And also for patient care, patient experience for excellent inpatient survey scores for November, with scoring of at or above average of the national average in 7 out of 10 components.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So current accreditation, licensure, or notes of importance. So we're still continuing to get ready for D&B in June of this year with that ISO 9001 certification at our next survey. Meditech Expanse, we've heard we're on that journey for that one patient portal, one electronic health record, and we're still in that build phase. Testing will occur March through May, and then training will occur in June with that go live date of July 2024. For workplace violence events, there was 10 in February, 5 were verbal, 4 were physical, and 1 was verbal physical with 2 staff injuries. So we're partnering again with WISHA for the fall of this year for additional de-escalation classes for new staff and staff that are here. Data analytics, we've completed our final MIPS data submission to CMS for 2023. So again, mentioning the ACO, so that's what we're going to start tracking, that data for quality metrics, in addition to the other quality metrics that we're currently tracking with the build and Meditech Expanse. Any questions so far?
Just on the violence part, if you can go back to the slide. It would just be helpful if we could just see, are those employee to employees, or these patients to staff? The 5 verbal, physical, et cetera, what's the category that they're in?
Yeah, we don't clarify that data on the screen, but most of these events are the patients.
Okay.
And we do track those through opportunities to ensure safety for all.
Sure. Yeah, obviously you investigate them. So.
Yes, yep. Definitely. Okay, so quality data updates for March. The Rural Health Conference in Spokane is next week, and many of us leaders are going to that. We'll bring back knowledge for the organization, looking to partner with others in the Washington state. Education department, so trauma and stroke courses have been added. Expanse HealthStream course build is in progress, so we are funneling those education through HealthStream to ensure accountability and compliance with that training. Whidbey Health is also now a training site for BLS, ACLS, and PALS. So initial 1- and 2-day courses along with part code for providers is currently occurring. That's a huge step for education department and providers to get that education while they're here. Medical staff credentials and NEC appointments awaiting board approval is 6. Credentialing applications in queue is 35. All right, patient experience trends, we briefly mentioned the November stats, and you can see which were above the national average. Also, Whitby Health received a rating of at least 9 out of 10 for 67% of the time. And Whitby Health also received definitely yes, would recommend to the hospital to others at 58% of the time. And emergency department scores are mentioned there. That is on that 5-point scale. Providers listening and then also recommending this facility to family and friends. Patient experience trends department spotlight, talking about those inpatient surveys. Just want to call out food and nutrition services. Courtesy of the person who served the foods, 29% of those responded good, and 71% of those responded very good. A lot of work by that department. Patient experience trends would recommend or return in the last 90 days on that 5-point scale are mentioned. Very high scores across the board and almost 5.0 in some areas. Any questions?
Thank you, Shona.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Oh, finance report.
Good afternoon. I'm going to stand here in awkward silence until my narrative pops up on the screen. And I'll be covering the highlights of our February month-end close. And we are reporting a total net loss of $171,141. And actually that compares favorably to a budgeted loss of a little more than $211,000. And I'll just remind you that we have budgeted ongoing losses for the next 3 or 4 months through June as a result of the costs related to migrating from Meditech Expanse. So the elements of that loss are operating revenues that were lower than budget, operating expenses that were lower than budget, and lower than budget by a greater amount than the deficit with our operating revenues. So what you have there is a loss of 171, budget of $211,000 loss. And so little background on that part. Patient volumes, obviously, 78 inpatient discharges, almost to budget. We were off by 4 discharges. Patient days exceeded budget by 19. ER visits fell short of budget by 67. And hospital-only outpatient visits, as we've seen in past months, continue to exceed budget by a rather large amount. And in this month, those outpatient visits exceeded budget by almost 700. Surgeries slightly over budget by 11. Primary care visits also above budget, and specialty care visits slightly below budget. So a mix of patient volumes, inpatient was lower, hospital outpatient was higher, and a mixed bag with our clinic visits. Total days cash on hand, 5.1, current ratio 126, and net days in accounts receivable 63.9. And what I will comment on with respect to the net days in AR at 63.9 is that's an increase of a couple of net days in comparison to last month. And the primary driver of that is a migration from Change Healthcare to another platform to serve as our clearinghouse for claims, billing, and receipt. So I believe we're behind We're behind the 63.9, and we're gonna see that coming down. We're beginning to see it in the cash collections that are coming in so far this month. On the balance sheet side, you've got a slight decrease in current assets. You've got a decrease in cash, an increase in accounts receivable. And so the increase in accounts receivable was less than the decrease in cash. Total net assets, 114,491,000, and liabilities and net assets, the same amount. Here's your $171,000 loss for the month versus your budgeted loss to 11. And on a year-to-date basis, we're sitting at $110,000 loss versus a $440,000 in change loss in the budget side. Here you've got a trending of days cash on hand. We were here at 22.9 at the end of the year. We're down to 4.8. And on the salary and expense side, we're sitting right at budget in terms of salary and benefits as a percentage of net revenue. Move on down, if you would, John, to the next page. I've got some charts here. First one, EBITDA. This is earnings before interest, depreciation, and amortization. Again, this is important to look at because this shows what your surplus is, excluding a large non-cash item, depreciation and amortization. So we're sitting on a year-to-date basis at a 9.84% EBITDA margin, which is favorable to prior year, 4.92, and then these other benchmark comparisons. Return on equity, slightly below zero, but significantly better than prior year. I've got revenue deductions percentage, which is consistent with prior year, maybe up just a little bit. Current ratio, which is flat in comparison to the prior year, and significantly lower than the Washington and critical access hospital benchmarks. We've lost a little bit on our average age of plant, sitting at 8.13, but significantly better than the Washington and critical access hospitals benchmarks. And then here's some long-term debt equity comparisons. And also a long-term debt capitalization comparison. And with both of those, we like to see those moving in a downward direction. And John, if you keep moving down, please. Here's debt service coverage ratio, a little bit higher. This is good. FTEs per adjusted occupied bed. We've got an opportunity to do more with the personnel resources that we have. We've lost a little bit of ground with respect to productivity. So again, that's an opportunity for us. Salaries as a percentage of total expenses, 37.83 versus 39.15 at 31.23. See a decrease in salary expense per FTE, which is favorable to our bottom line. And continue on down. Thank you. Bad debt write-off percentage consistent with prior year and really rather consistent with critical access hospitals as a whole. Supply expenses per adjusted discharge. And net revenue per adjusted discharge is on the up and up. Good to see. And Inflation is driving this operating expense for adjusted discharge increase. 2015, 16,680. And this is my last slide here, cash flow statement. We dropped, if you go down, John. Right there. We dropped from $5.3 million in our cash down to $1,727,000. The big kicker there was we funded 3 payrolls in February. February 1, February 15, February 29 payrolls that we funded. And that's about 7 days cash on hand. We won't have another pre-payroll funding. There'll be one more this year, probably 4 to 6 months from now. The makeup of that drop is shown, the drop, let's see. There's your drop, $3.6 million comprised of net cash provided by operating activities. So we used almost $3 million in cash from regular operating activities. We used $300,000 from purchase of, largely from the purchase of property, plant, and equipment. And then some debt retirement here, $415,000. So I'm available for any questions.
Ready for Spears?
Please.
You did a great job as always, and a lot more detailed information we used to get. Mike, I only have one quick question, and it might even be for Tim. I had never seen before the average age of plant.
Yeah.
And you said, well, it's a little bit low. I mean, do you have to replace this whole building to have a younger age of plant? How do you change the age of plant?
So lower is better.
Lower's better,
Right,
but it's equipment and medical equipment and beds and.
Okay, so it's
everything.
it's not just the plant, it's a lot of stuff that there.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah,
So
okay,
capital, physical,
Yeah.
nature.
perfect,
The
thanks.
hospitals, it's an interesting set of ratios. There's a lot to be positive about. Unfortunately, an average age of plant of 2 doesn't prevent you from spending money on capital if your telemetry system doesn't work. And so you can have $1 million expense that's honestly very small part of the overall picture. And it's kind of still $1 million when it comes up. But overall, you're not expecting to replace the hospital. You're not expecting to do the sort of wholesale refurbish, and that's a positive thing. And then the other liquidity ratio that really stands out is your current ratio, which is below 1.5, was 1.2. Those two taken together tell you that you've invested heavily in the balance sheet over the years. The days in IR tells you that that's where your cash is hiding.
Right.
We can brag about our facility and the condition that it's in, and the condition of our equipment in comparison to the general market. Our age is lower. Comparisons to individual hospitals, I wouldn't go that far, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, my pleasure.
The tax levy money comes in April or?
Yeah, so most of the tax levy money for the next couple months will arrive in May. May 10 to be exact. So I'm counting the days.
Okay, finance report, excuse me, IT report, and facilities report, Tim.
I'll keep this under an hour. So as far as IT, obviously, everybody knows network expanse is a big thing in IT. We continue to navigate through the projects that keep coming up through the technology steering committee. 12 in process, and then as they get done and completed, we move on to the next. they all go through the committee and get prioritized and see those are the most important. So it's going very well. Meditech expands. If we were to go live today, would be good. I mean, we could take care of our patients. We did identify some issues as far as being paid. So we have had a meeting and we're restructuring one of that main group that kind of oversees PAS, registration, revenue cycle, a lot of that portions. Created a smaller team, kind of identified champions to lead that and finished getting that going, and staying on track. And then have a plan in place to then teach people the process rather than, there's been a lot of, I guess, difficulties because of just lack of training and a lot of because North End and Gold does it one way and Clinton does it one way. And trying to create, you know, a uniform, consistent way to do the process the correct way, right? So good things are happening. They're being identified early enough so that it can be fixed and keep it moving in the right direction. So that's the positive thing. As far as facilities, we have a lot of little projects going on. The DI project, we're expecting to get the X-ray by the end of May. We should be taking out the one new one very soon to make room for the other new one to come in so that we can finish that project and get 4 done, hopefully early this summer. First, we're looking at the purchase of a building that we'll be discussing later on as executive. We are bringing the pool and the rehab area back up to life so that service can get back up and running in rehab. We're doing a lot of work up at Goldie to get the rehab area up there. We're moving equipment back in. They've been purchasing equipment from some of the outpatient rehab areas that have been closing down, so we can get that service going back up at Goldie. We're in the process of finishing up some work in the old MRI room and where the MRI used to be before we had the trailer. Just redoing some flooring, painting, different things in that space so that we can expand ultrasound in that space for the working through some processes with construction review services. They are looking at the building up front. Where we have the walk-in clinic and primary care in Cookville here, the old Dr. Ruth building, and then with the women's clinic, that building, because women's has gone under the hospital license, construction review services, UOH wants to review those buildings. Could lead to some potential costs depending on what they find, but we're just in the process of. We had to have some updated drawings. Nobody in the town who built it have any drawings for the building out front. We do the walk-in clinic currently. So we had to have an architect and create as-built. We're doing the same thing, updating the drawings for the women's clinic so that they can finish their plan review and let us know what may or may not need to be done. So there's some potential costs with those buildings coming in the near future. So I'm into the board aware of that. We don't know if that's what that impact may be, but there could be an impact. So those are the main things right now. Lots of other things going on, but everything's going really well at facilities and IT and EMS is doing really great. So all in all, everything's good.
It is great news to hear that the therapy pool is coming back. My son, after he became disabled paraplegic, experienced that 9 years ago and it was a lifesaver.
Thank you, Jim. All right, operations, nursing, human resources and administration report.
Well, since Garth is in the room, I'm gonna let him handle the first one.
Okay, so on the recruiting front, we now have 46 full or part-time employee providers, including 25 primary care providers. If you included our walk-in clinic, which I include, walk-in clinics are basically open schedule primary care. So that we have really gone a long way to try to provide access to our community for primary care. And yet we still have a long way to go. Despite continuing to hire more and more primary care folks, we still have 60 to 90 day waits for new patients to get in. So we're continuing to recruit. Highlights, we have a new primary care provider who's going to start in April, James Jakowski, DNP. We have an offer out to a physician who might be able to join us in Freeland. We have a clinic provider starting this month, Samantha Steele, PA. We have another walk-in clinic provider, Christopher Ball, who will be starting in May and help us with our Coopville walk-in. We also have Dr. Kerr starting in April, in our Coopville walk-in clinic. So lots of recruiting on the walk-in clinic side. We hope to go expand back to 7 days this summer. Both expand Coopville from 0 to 7 days and our other 2 clinics from 6 to 7 days by this summer. Just continued demand for those services. And I think it's how a lot of people want to get a lot of their care. They don't want to wait for a scheduled appointment. They just want to walk in whenever they want to. And we can serve their acute needs and we can help them with their refills, but they still need to get a primary care provider so we can do the preventative care, all the things that help them stay healthy. So we need both. We hired Dr. Tulk as a per diem general surgeon, and she's just been fantastic, and we hope that she'll join us full-time this summer. Dr. Myers is a Navy doc who's been working with Dr. Addition for months now. He'll be joining us full-time in August. His partner, Dr. Reed, is also retiring from the Navy, and we're finishing up contract negotiations with her to join us as well this fall.
They're both ortho.
Both ortho, and Dr. Addition wants to retire. So this will allow us to expand our coverage, expand our service line to provide, sports medicine as well as treatment of arthritis and joint replacement and things of that nature. So it's very exciting to see that come together. Dr. Lindgren, OBGYN, will join us in April. On the BH front, we're continuing to recruit. We have 2 prescribers now, and they're doing therapy as well as prescribing, which is just not ideal. We're trying to find therapists. We have a virtual therapist that we just identified through our contracted service company, ITP, and we'll get her credentialed and started hopefully later this spring. We have another telehealth prescriber that will start this spring, and we're interviewing a couple of local therapists finally that seem to be interested in joining us, and hopefully we'll have some in-person therapists as well to support our prescribers. We hope to go live with our medicated assisted therapy for substance use disorder in May as well. Keep your fingers crossed on it. Hospice, Dr. Sanders is retiring in August, and Dr. Lehman has signed a contract to take over. So we now have support for Dr. Fogarty and 24/7 hospice coverage. Hospitalists, you've heard about getting the privilege set approved for a hospitalist PA. We're going to bring back a hospitalist APP 7 days a week to support our physicians. As soon as sound physicians can find and identify the people and get them on board. And that should really help on the quality side as well as the length of stay. With more provider support, we should be able to get folks discharged in a more timely fashion, we hope. Pharmacy, there was a recent Board of Pharmacy survey that went very, very well. Just very minor findings that were found that were not really clinically related at all. We've already seen corrections that have been approved. So that's all very good. We're going to start building out the specialty pharmacy service line for retail pharmacy to support our oncologists and our cancer program, and take advantage of our 340B program to also support our revenue stream for those very expensive oral chemotherapy agents that are now becoming more and more popular. New ones are coming out every day, which is fantastic for patients. And if we can provide those medications through our retail pharmacy, it's a win-win. That'll take a year to build out, but hopefully we can go live with that next. Rehab, you heard about the pool. The pool is on its way to being usable again for aquatic therapy. We also are hoping to expand our acupuncture services. And we're going to hopefully go live with our Rehab North clinic in our Colby location in May as well. And once that gets up and running, we know there's a need on the south end as well. And we'll work on a rehab clinic as well later on. You heard about Meditech Expanse. Our provider advisory team is working very well. They're meeting weekly things are progressing very nicely from the provider side as far as getting that system usable and friendly and working well for our providers. And then finally, we just today, have a signed agreement with our first oncology provider, Lena Bransom, APP. She'll be starting with us in May. As you know, we're trying to insource our oncology program. And we have a strong physician candidate as well, but we hope to interview sometime soon. Completes my report.
Wow.
Thank you, Eric.
Wow.
There's gonna be a test.
Yeah.
Okay, so nursing and human resources, I don't have any significant updates. Doing still well on recruiting more and more, trying to get rid of our contract agency usage. We still have some. From the administrator side, we are very close to finishing our strategic plan. Hopefully we'll have that ready for you to see by the next meeting. And just continuing to evaluate some of our processes for improvement and better efficiency. That's about it. Do you have questions?
Questions? Okay, thank you, Nate. General board items. It is time for the board to review our bylaws and code of ethics. So I have established a governance committee and it will be composed of Mr. Wallen and myself. And so if anybody has any suggestions on changes to the bylaws or the code of ethics, please turn them in and we will review them and run them by our attorney and then have an ultimate vote when we finish examining.
Marion, did you get a copy of the?
I have a copy of the bylaws. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I try to remember.
Yeah, I've started my list of suggestions, yeah.
Oh, very good. We look forward to it. Okay, we need to go into executive session. Nate, how long do you anticipate?
30 minutes at most.
Okay, we will meet back here.
A couple of minutes. Right back.
Yeah, we will meet back here at
2:10?
2:10 will work, okay? So. Okay. The executive session is over. We are coming back into normal session. We have not made any decisions or taken any votes. So we are reconvene currently, and our first item on the agenda is the purchase of a building. And Tim, I will have you discuss it first, and then we will call on Marion to bring up some additional facts. So Tim.
Okay, so, looking to get approval to move forward with the purchase of 101 Northeast Birch Street. The reason for this purchase that we're looking into is we're running out of space. We would like to move hospice and palliative care into that building and other services if necessary, so that we can free up space in the hospital. It's a 3,100 square foot building. We did receive 3 appraisals on it. So looking to purchase that building. Diamond Foundation will be supplying some funds towards that purchase price. The purchase price that has been presented, not accepted because we obviously haven't made anything final pending board approval, is $725,000. Also include paying for the sellers closing costs.
Very good. Marion, I believe the foundation is involved in this. Would you?
Yes, well, the foundation's been very fortunate to receive a lot of money from the community on an ongoing basis over many years. For hospice, it's been restricted to hospice use, and hospice care, it only uses a little bit of equipment and supplies. It's mostly about the people who are providing the care. And so we have a very large amount of money, over $600,000. Some due to a request, some due to ongoing giving. And over the years, hospice has worked with the foundation to find a way to spend this money to keep hospice on the island and keep hospice thriving on the island. That was the mission of this money. And so this building became available and hospice looked into it. And they're very excited because this means that they will have space offices for their people. They'll have easy access for their supplies for when the hospice nurses have to go in and out and resupply. They'll also have some meeting areas for families and group sessions. And so they're very, very excited to have this space and be able to use it for hospice and possibly palliative care. So the foundation board looked at the building and voted. And the foundation will use a large majority of that money, plus some of our unrestricted funds, and give $700,000 towards the purchase of the building. So that's a very special thanks to our community and the ongoing commitment to Hospice by Ridley Health, which is greatly appreciated. And we look forward to a bright future for that really needed service.
Fantastic.
Is there any other questions or discussion? All right, this time we can take a vote.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of this building. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're gonna move on to commissioner comments. I'm gonna start with Greg, you first.
No comments today. I had my questions answered.
No comments from me either. Marion?
The legislative session finished. They did pass in the budget some money for labor and delivery services for low volume OB hospitals, which would be helping me be able to access. And they also approved the EMT medical assistant authorization, where the EMTs will be able to work in ERs as medical assistants, and that will be up to our hospital administration to decide if they want to use them that way, but that is a possibility for the future.
Good, thank you. Okay.
No comments.
I think that wraps it up, so without objection, we will stand adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.